Hello guys, welcome. We're going to start very shortly. Before we start, let's just celebrate the new year. So happy new year everyone. Happy 2025. We're just allowing the speaker to settle in shortly. Tell me about your new year. How did it go? Do you have any resolutions? Good morning, Malu. Anyone has any fish resolutions this new year? Let us know. What's the weather like in your area? Let us know. Good morning, Sunny. What's the weather like in your area? What's going on? Tell us where you're watching us from. A little bit of glitch here and there. We're back. We're just allowing people to settle in. Everything is ready. Allowing speakers to settle in. We're going to start. Let's have this New Year message. Yes, Happy New Year, everyone. Just allowing people to join. Lovely to see people from Kano.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
one of us is here, Samuel.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'll start with introduction. So Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy
It's
New
love.
Year, sir.
Yeah, so do share the live link with your contact so that we can have more people online.
Okay, sir.
Uh, Keep sharing with your contact, those in the audience, so that they can join. It's free. They just need to plug in with their data and they should be fine.
All right, sir.
Uh, so Happy New Year, everyone. And it'll be good if people listening also tell us their background and their experience before we start in terms of, the area of fish farming. So while we are at that, let's share the slide. Samuel will begin his lectures
All right,
and
sir.
we will start the training. Let me see. Just give me 1 second, Samuel.
All right.
I'll make you co-host. Anyway, I think you can start your lectures now. Just tell me when you need something moved and I'll just move it.
All right.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel, and I'm going to anchor lecture one and lecture two. Yeah, are you getting me, sir? Hello.
I
Hello,
can hear
sir.
you. I can hear
Okay.
you. Go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right. All right. Now, the basic fish farming course, and then the module is on the technical dimension of sustainable agriculture. And then in this season, I'm going to focus on lecture one and lecture two, which lecture one captured some essential definitions, and then lecture two captured the factors influencing carrying capacity in water. So for the lecture one, just like I said, we are going to look at the module one, the technical dimension of sustainable aquaculture. Now, what are some essential definitions that we need to look at? But before then, I want us to look at what does this aquaculture means. What does it mean? You know, the aquaculture, another name for aquaculture is the aqua farming. Aqua farming is the controlled cultivation of aquatic organism. That's what we mean by aquaculture, the controlled cultivation of aquatic organism. Now, example of such aquatic organism are fish, shellfish, the coastal oceans, and of course the aquatic plants. Then all of them dey live inside the water. That's what we mean by aquatic organism that lives inside the water. Now, the learning objectives and the outcome. Number one, we are going to look at the attainment of a basic understanding of the key principle of aquaculture and fish farming. Number two learning objective, you are going to look at the introduction of basic terminologies related to fish farming and agriculture. Of course, another one, we are going to look at the attainment of a fundamental knowledge of basic fish biology. That's an anatomy and physiology of catfish and tilapia. Of course, we are supposed to know the internal and the external should I say composure, what is entails in a catfish and tilapia, so that when we come to some of those things we understand more better. Now, what is carrying capacity? We're going to look at some essential definition. What does carrying capacity means? And we are going to look at what does term yield indicate. Now, we have carrying capacity in ecological and environmental context, and we also have carrying capacity in aquaculture context. So in this study, we are going to look at the carrying capacity in terms of aquaculture context. So what does this carrying capacity mean? Now, it means how how many it means how aquatic organism can be farmed sustainably in a given system or a body of water. That's what it means. And well, we have different types of carrying capacity. We have the physical carrying capacity and we have the production carrying capacity. And then the physical carrying capacity is talking about the space available for farm. Example, the size of pond, the tank or cages. That's what I mean by the physical carrying capacity. Now, looking at the key principle of aquaculture, we have to look at the successful aquaculture depends on understanding of ecological principle. It determines the weight of an organism that can be harvested per unit in water in a given period at a level of culture. That's the key principle of aquaculture. That's what it means. So when we apply this principle in some certain organism inside the water, of course, we know it's going to yield a positive result. So let's peruse on the introduction of this basic terminology. Now, this basic terminology, that the terminology that can be used in aquacultures. That this is just like a sub terms or sub context in aquaculture definition. Now, the pisciculture is an aquaculture practice that involve fin fish. When we talk about fin fish, we are talking about the fish that have a backbone like the skeletal bones or a vertebrate. That's what we mean by fin fish. So that's what a pisciculture means. It's an aquatic practice involving fin fish. We have the extensive aquaculture. When we talk about extensive aquaculture, it's a managed aquaculture that dependent on the local natural setting, such as pond or coastal sea area. We also have the intensive aquaculture. It's a managed aquaculture control through human engineering means, such as managing water quality and source of food. We also have fish farm, location used to grow population of aquatic organism, primarily fish. That's what we mean by fish farm, as the name implies. Is mainly for the cultivation of fish or the harvesting of fish. We also have fish hatchery. It's one form of a fish managed with the intent of resupplying native wild population in natural environment. Of course, we have the ornamental fish, a small fish such as cure, which are typically grown to be kept in aquarium or small landscape pond. So these are some of the basic terminology under agriculture. Let's go to the next slide. We have water quality. The characteristic of water, such as water temperature and contamination, which define the ability to sustain life and purity from chemical. Now, what this thing entail is that before you stock in a fish, either tilapia, after catfish, of course, we have to know the water quality before we stock in such a type of fish. Because if you don't know the water quality, maybe if the water is salty, of course, is going to affect the fish negatively. It's going to affect the fish. So we have to know the water quality in order to stock in the fish from any danger. So another thing that I want us to look at is the culture tank. artificial holding area used to rear fish farm stock. That's what it means. The fish husbandry, the breeding and rearing of fish for a variety of reasons. Of course, we also have the anadromous fish. The migration, okay, migrating fish that live in salt water but breed in fresh water. That's what I mean by anadromous fish. What are the migration fish? What does that mean? These are a species of fish that travel between different habitats during specific stages of their life cycles for feeding, reproduction. Now, the migratory fish, during their habitat, they migrate from one habitat to another at the state of their life. So when they reach to some steady stage, of course, they will migrate. To another stage, they will migrate. The reason why they migrate from one stage to another because of their feeding and reproduction. We also have the catadromous fish, which involve the migratory fish that live in fresh water but breathe in salt water. But the anadromous fish, they live in salt water and they breathe in fresh water. So these are the two differences between the anadromous fish and the catadromous fish. Can we proceed? All right. The next slide is the basic fish biology. That's the anatomy and physiology of catfish. We want to talk about the anatomy and physiology of catfish. What does that mean? We are trying to look at the internal and the external biology of it. What does the internal structure of the fish look like? What does it look like? That's what we mean by the anatomy and physiology of catfish. Now, when we look at this table, there are animals and there are plants. Animals and plant. Of course, the animals, example, they feed. Like the catfish, for example, the catfish, that's the example of farm fish. Of course, the catfish, we also have the common carps and the rest of them. Now, when we look at it, for the farm fish, what does it feed on? Of course, when we look at it feed on fish, frogs and insects. Then when we look at the second one, though it's not that clear for me to see. Okay, the common carp, what does it feed like? It feed on worm, it feed on insect larva, and then it feed on snails. It feed on snails. So these are the basic fish biology. When we look at the structure, we look at the outward structure and the inward structure. Now, for this fish, for example, okay, just like I said, for the common carps, they feed on worm, they feed on insect, and then they also feed on larva. And then we have the third one. What does so all this one, they are the groups of feed organisms. Group of feed organism. What do they feed on?
Sam, let me see if I can put the image in the chat box.
Okay.
Yeah, so just crack on, carry on. I will try and get this image and put it in the chat.
All right. So for the anatomy and physiology of feed, of course, the external view of feed, of course, we have the lateral ring, the fins, we have the caudal fins, we have the pedicels, we have the anal fins, we have the vent, we have the pelvic veins, we have the pectoral veins. Now, the pelvic veins and the dorsal veins, the caudal veins and the anal fins, all of them helps in facilitating in the movement of the fish inside water. Are you getting me? So without it, without the dorsal fins, the anal fins, the pelvic veins, and the caudal fin. It will not help the fish to swim or to move faster inside the water. So the anatomy and physiology is talking about the external and the internal view of the catfish. Are you getting me? Now, when we look at the internal structure of the catfish, we have the stomach that helps in the easy digestion of food whenever they eat or they swallow. And they also have the intestine. We also have the anus. We also have the gonad. We have the swim bladder. We have the heart. Of course, the fish have a heart. We have the kidney. We have the gills. We have the cut edge or the operculum. We have the brain. We have the spinal cord. We have the swim bladder. All of them is talking about the anatomy of the fish. So let's move on this on the next slide. Let's look at the next slide. Let's look at on the next slide. Now, the next slide is still talking about, just like the way I explained, is trying to bring the anatomy of a tilapia anatomy. Of course, the first one will look like is the the anatomy of a tilapia. Of course, for the tilapia, you also have a dorsal fin, it has the caudal fin, you also have an anal fins, you have the pelvic fins, you have the pectoral fins, you have the operculum, also have the lateral line. And then the internal structure, you have the spine, we have the heart, you have the liver, and you have the stomach, you have the intestine. All of them are talking about the physiology and the anatomy of catfish and tilapia. So let's look at some essential definition. Though I've said some of them, like the aquaculture and the carrying capacity. I've said some things about them. So let's look at the aquaculture. Just like I said, the aquaculture is a family of aquatic organisms, including fish, mollusks, the crustacean, and the aquatic plant. And then aquaculture implies some forms of human intervention in the rearing process to enhance production. And a farm for aquatic product contains stocks owned collectively by one individual. Of course, aquatic organisms that are exploitable by the public for a common property. Resources are captured, fisheries are not aquaculture. Now, the farming of aquatic organisms and plants can be done in several purposes, such as human consumption, but also for jewelry or for the cultivation of ornamental fish. So that is the major reason why we involve in farming of aquatic organism. So based on my own ideology, I think the major reason why we undergo on such farming is for human consumption. Are you getting me? For human consumption, and then maybe for also it can be be used as a cultivation for ornamental fish. Okay, what is carrying capacity? What is carrying capacity? Just like I said, it can be defined in terms of ecological context, and it can be defined in terms of aquaculture context. So for the aquaculture farming comprising various steps from pond construction, seed production, and nursery to grow out, harvest, and market. For every single step in the process of aquaculture farming, we need to know the carrying capacity and the production factor, including the factors influencing water productivity and production rate and yield. So this is the things, the major things we need to know before we evolve into aquaculture farming. We have to know the carrying capacity. We also have to know the production factors. Okay? No, now just like I said, the aquaculture farming, it have to undergo some certain steps, a variety of steps before it can yield a positive result. Number one step, we have to look at the pond construction. From construction down to the seed production. After seed production, of course, the nursery. Now, we look at the carrying capacity and the production factors. These are the steps that need to be undergone in aquaculture farming. So, what is carrying capacity? What is the carrying capacity? Since we have known the step, the carrying capacity and the production factor, now we have to understand what the carrying capacity means. What does it mean? The carrying capacity is a fish weight in a given unit of water where growth stopped. Carrying capacity is recorded in kilogram per hectare or kilogram per meter cube and 1 B per hectare among others. Now, the carrying capacity, now when you put a fish inside water, now there is a growth rate in which the fish will reach before it can be disposed or it can be sold out or can be used for human consumption. And then it's recorded in kilogram per head. It can be used in, can also be measured in kilogram per meter cube as the case may be. So it's not advisable when a fish reach some certain weight where the carrying capacity is being reached. It's not advisable for one to leave the fish inside the water. So there are some certain limits, also certain weight in which the fish will reach. Of course, it can be disposed. We cannot leave it there till eternity. It's not done that way. Now, the carrying capacity measure the maximum biomass of a farm species that can be supported without violating the maximum acceptable impact to the farm, stocks, or its environment in a given unit of time or given unit of area. That is not a factor of determining where carrying capacity is reached. Now, how does it when we look at this graph? It's talking about the standing curve, which is measured in kilogram per hectare. This is the graph, a plot against a standing curve against time. Now, the carrying capacity, this is the maximum unit. The asterisk we are seeing here is talking about the maximum time that a fish weight can be given, it can be used, or this is the time in which the growth of a fish stops per unit time. Now, they say the egg-shaped segment curve for a slow-growing production of fish that does not reproduce in the pond. So that is how it works. As it moves in a certain period of time, as the fish is growing inside the water, now there's a certain time in which it will stop. Some certain weight in which it will stop. That's where the carrying capacity will have to come to play a role. So at that stage, the fish can be used or can be disposed for human consumption. Now, we are going to look at standing crops. Standing crops. We are going to look at standing crops. What are standing crops? A standing crop is a biomass in a unit of area at a given moment where growth slows for the maximum growth line. That's what a standing crop means. But this biomass that you are looking at, because it talks about biomass. What does biomass mean? The biomass refers to renewable organic matter derived from plant and animal, containing stored chemical energy from the sun generated through photosynthesis. Okay, so when it's talking about plant and animal, of course, the plant, they generate their source of oxygen or source of life through photosynthesis. Of course, we know what a photosynthesis is. A photosynthesis is a process in which green plant generated or get their lifespan through the project through sunlight, or through the process of sunlight. Of course, the standing crop is a biomass, is a unit area given where they grow slow for a maximum grow line, and then it can be expressed, for example, pound per acre, kilogram per hectare, and of course kilogram per meter cube. So when you look at this graph is trying to tell us the standing crop against time. Of course, when you look at this graph is not straight, is curve, and then of course it does not start from the origin. It does not start from the origin. Now, the standing crop, where e start, when we look at the second graph, wey is standing crop against time, when we look at the standing at e start, e start in form of let me say it's very slow from the initial point. Then at its come up, this is the standing crop. Then at its grow, it reach to its own critical standing crops. Of course, critical, when we talk about critical, we are trying to say that the condition has become in a form of a severe state. Now, of course, when it's past the critical state, of course it has reached the maximum standing crop or the carrying capacity. Of course, so the standing crop is a stage by stage. It's just like a life cycle of a fish. E has to go to this stage, from fry to fingerless, continuously until it reach to its own carrying capacity. So that's all about standing crops. Now we are going to look at the term yield. Under it, we are going to look at, when using the term yield in aquaculture, we need to differentiate between the types of yield and how to link to the production rate as demonstrated in the box below. So I want to look at, we are going to look at the box, and then we are going to understand what does this term indicate in a more clearer view. Now, what does this term yield? It can be expressed as, for example, pound per hectare per year. That is the expression of 10 year. Or it can also be expressed in kilogram per hectare per year and kilogram per cubic meter per year. The net yield indicates the total weight of the organism harvested minus the total weight of organisms stocked per unit area volume in a given time. Of course, that is how to calculate the net yield. Now, in the table, we are going to look at the differences between the grow yield versus the net yield. Now, the grow yield is talking about the total biomass of organism harvested per unit area, of course, volume in a given period of time. Just like I said, and of course, we'll look at the representation, how it can be expressed. And then the net yield is talking about the total weight of organisms harvested minus the total weight of organisms stocked per unit area volume in a given period of time. Of course, it can be expressed as kilogram per hectare per year, or it can be expressed as pound per acre per year. It can also be expressed as kilogram per meter cube per year. And of course, another difference is Gross yield minus stocking weight is equals to what? Net yield. Now, let me say for example, you are giving 5,000 kilogram per hectare per year gross yield minus. Now, we are giving this, you have to subtract to calculate the gross yield. Now, we have to subtract the stocking weight. Okay, we have to subtract the gross yield minus the stocking yield. With that, by doing that, it's going to give us the net yield. That's what you are supposed to, if you are going to calculate the net yield. Of course, if the gross yield is given to you and then the stocking weight is given to you. If you are asked to calculate the net yield, of course, if you are asked to calculate the gross yield, of course, we are going to make the gross yield the subject of formula, and then of course we are going to add the stocking weight plus the net yield, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the second one that we are going to look at is the production rate. The production here is talking about the increase in weight of a production of organism per unit area in a given period of time. It's talking about the increase, as the name implies, production. When we talk about production, we are talking about increase in weight or growth of a population of an organism. It's just like, let me say you are doing a breeding of let me say of catfish, for example. You want to breed a catfish, of course you are going to produce the egg into a fry. So it had to undergo some kind of processes, from the larva down to the fry, from fry down to fingerless, from fingerless, as the case may be. So that's what a production yield is all about. So these are the two differences between the gross yield and the net yield. Also look at the gross yield versus the net yield and the production yield, so that when we are about to calculate the net yield, we are supposed to know the formula that we are going to use. So it's from this formula we will try to kind of do our substitution and then try to get our required value. So let's go to the next slide. The next slide is talking about the factors influencing carrying capacity in water. The factors, of course, there are so many factors. So before we kind of look at the carrying capacity in water, we have to kind of look at some certain factors. We have to look at the water quality factors, physically dissolved organism, temperature, ammonia, water flow, and volume. Okay, now the water quality. Now the water quality have to contain some kind of dissolved organism. We have to look at the temperature of that water, and we also look at whether the water has some kind of ammonia in it. We also look at the volume and the water flow before we look at the carrying capacity. We also look at the fish species and size. We also look at the feed nutrient. We have to also look at the polyculture of that particular fish. And then this polyculture, what does that mean? What does it mean? It's talking about the practice of growing more than one crop species together in the same place at the same time. That's what I mean by polyculture. So the factor we have to look at the polyculture is one of the factors influencing carrying capacity in water. So when we look at this polyculture, there are practice of growing more than one crop at specific time together at the same place at specific time. More than crop, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5, it can be 10, but they must have to be at the same time interval, and they must have to be at the same place. So let's go to the next slide, sir. Let's move to the next slide.
Yes. So I think this is lecture one. So
Yes,
I
sir.
think at this point, let's do a recap
All
so that
right.
you understand what we've been saying. And then me and Sammy will go through everything from the beginning. I
All
think
right.
one of the things why we're giving you this knowledge is so when you look at the data
Yes,
and across the world, it's not just in Nigeria or UK or America.
yes, sir.
Of 100 people that start any sort of business,
Yes,
90%. And the reason 90% fail is because of 90% of them lack the right knowledge. So the very
it's
first thing you want to do, whatever you want to become, whether you want to become a pilot, a cook, a farmer, a doctor, you must have the necessary knowledge to start with. And if you are a Muslim or a Christian, in the Quran, it says man must seek knowledge.
yes, sir.
Yeah, and it says, I can't quote it precisely, but it says man, when it says man, it means man and woman, isn't it?
It's true.
Must seek knowledge,
Yes, sir.
across the ends of the earth. And in the Bible, it says, my people perish for lack of wisdom.
Lack of
And the
wisdom.
reason why you would build a fish farm and all of the fishes will die and perish is because people lack fundamental knowledge.
It's
Now, if
true.
you are lazy to learn, you will not be able to earn.
It's true.
So now, with that said, let's go to the very beginning so that me and Sam will give you context how you apply this in real life. Now,
All
one
right.
of the things what I've seen that is missing is you need to share the training. It's free and we're not charging you anything. This training is extremely good. So I'm
Free.
going to share the link again. Share it in your WhatsApp group. Share it on
I've,
your
I've,
Facebook. It costs you nothing.
I've
Yeah,
done this.
guys. No, not you, Sam. I mean the audience.
All right.
Huh? Share it on WhatsApp. Share it on your Facebook. It costs you nothing. It costs them nothing. Why? Because the economy, especially in Nigeria, is getting bad, and it's probably going to get worse because if you are a public person like my public person like so the food security is going to be a problem. So let's start from the very beginning, so that we help you understand. Now, the reason why you need to know this knowledge before you ever put a coin of your money in fish farming or anything, regardless of whatever background you have in terms of what you were doing before. Or if you want to do it as a side hustle, you want to do it as a main hustle, or something you've trained in, is because you need to understand what you are doing because farming is a very practical. That's why you see I wore this my hat here. So the few basics is people must understand the basics. Yeah, so let's quickly go into them. So without this knowledge, please do not start a fish farm. You would waste your money, you would waste your time, you pollute the environment. So the very first thing is to understand the difference. And people say to me, but why? Because once you are going to go internationally, fish farming and aquaculture doesn't mean the same thing. And Sam has clearly explained that. Aquaculture just means water and culturing. And when you culture something, you put it in an environment so that it can grow and develop. So you do that for bacteria, you do that for whatever it is. It has wild application. You do that for industry. So when you put something in water to grow, you are culturing that in a medium that is water. There is aqua farming, and in fact, aqua cropping, where you farm vegetables and things like that. In fact, the world is moving to that area, vertical farming, because in some parts of the world, they don't have a lot of soil to start with. So they use water as the medium. And so people don't understand it, but the soil is only meant to anchor the organism, the plant, so that it continues to get nutrients. So what they do, in fact, for them to grow food in space is they put nutrient that the plant needs, and then in water, and then find a way of suspending it. So these terms are very important. If you go into the science of anything, you want to write a paper, you want to speak in an international conference, you want to communicate with someone that is an expert in the field so that there is clarity. You want the UN or any other organizations to work with you, there has to be clear understanding of this. So the basic terms: what is water quality? As you are aware, think about the water you consume, isn't it? And so if you know a bit of biology, you would remember people talk about waterborne diseases. So it's the same thing with, when you are culturing anything, especially fish. Don't forget, the fish, whatever they take through the mouth, they will pass through the anus. So especially if you are doing pond fishing, pond farming, it means their excreta, you are going to have a lot. Now, generally, living organisms, including human beings, produce a lot of ammonia. If you know some maybe human physiology, you would know that one of the problems that people that have kidney issues have is that they begin to accumulate ammonia. Yeah, so one of the things that you're worried about in the quality of water is the ammonia. The second is the dissolved oxygen. Yeah, because the dissolved oxygen is what the fish need to breathe. So ammonia, dissolved oxygen, people talk here and there about pH, acidity, alkalinity, but if you know some science of water, you would realize that pH, while it can affect your fish, is not at the very top. Dissolved oxygen, the temperature of the water, the ammonia level, yeah, are some of the most key factors. And there's a different training for that. So the reason is, if you don't understand this, you'll be doing anywhere belle type of farming. And what that would lead is you will lose your money, you would waste your time. So the very first thing is to get the basic knowledge. And for some people in the riverine area, it's helpful to understand the migratory pattern of fish. Because there are people, of course, in Nigeria that live where you can do the regular farming. You can not fish farming, fishing. So which means if you are, for instance, in a market where there's a certain type of species, that means you need to understand the migration of the species, when they breed and when they not. For instance, if customers are not too keen to buy pregnant sort of, then you would consider that. So this is the biology, because every time I speak to people, they tell you, oh, this is what you should feed. It's not a try and error. You don't need a lot of try and error in any of these things. There's a lot of information, and this tells you, different fish. There are basically two fish that is farmed in Nigeria, and that tends to be catfish and tilapia. Now you can look, there's a range of species of catfish if you want to have a look, and also tilapia. But basically, catfish basically are carnivorous, roughly. Now, if you understand some biology, carnivorous things, they depend on generally animal protein.
Animal growth, yeah.
Why, when your tilapia mature, as they mature, they go towards being omnivorous, meaning they can eat plant and animal. Now, I see a lot of people, throw in terrible um, video and content online. The reason why something is carnivorous and herbivorous, if you go back to your basic biology, is the design of the gut. Yeah? So if the gut is designed in a certain way, it won't be able to digest that. Now, when it comes to, of course, when you want to produce your own fish feed and you have a fish feed formula, you must be practical and say, what is it that I have in my environment and what is it that is freely available. But understanding the basic biology is essential. Like carp are carnivorous throughout. The reason why you need to understand this, if you do earthen pond, yeah, that's the reason why you fertilize the pond. Why? Because you want to create the is it the ecology of life, organization of life? Yeah, if you check any biology book, there's something they call organization of life. You want to have zooplankton, phytoplankton. You want to have small pro. So you want to create a system where you have predator prey pattern. Yeah, so that as the ones on the bottom of no, the food chain, excuse me. So you want to create something called the food chain, so that those at the top of the food chain will feed at those at the bottom of the food chain. The ones at the bottom of the food chain are very populous. The ones at the top of the food chain are not. So that's the essence of this slide. If you are doing earthen pond, you get me, you must think this in your mind. Yeah. And in context of the water, people begin to say, oh, why should I change the water every day or more not, or two times? Roughly, if you look at the science, by the second, third day, the amount of ammonia in your water is significant if you are using trampoline pond or concrete pond. By that time, usually it's significant. You may want to do it more accurately, but you may consider the expenditure. The last time I checked in Nigeria, they sell the dissolved, what you need to check dissolved oxygen, I think for 250,000 and above. So for many farms, it's probably not what they can afford. And the pH meter, I think 50 strips or hundreds, 16 in one, where you can measure pH, hardness, can measure nitrate, nitrite, around 16,000. They tend to sell the strips for ammonia separately. So this can be quite costly for small-time fish farmers. So the recommendation is you want to manage your water where you can. If you operate trampoline 2 to 3 times a week, earthen pond may be less so because you have other organisms breaking down the waste. Yeah. So that's the idea of all of this information. That's how you the biology, really, I think the only thing you need it for is to be able to tell the gender of the fish. Hello?
Okay. Hello,
That's
sir.
really all aside, because this is not a university, so I'm not going to ask you. So it's to tell the gender of the fish. That's really what matters for you. So when you have tilapia and your aim is, like Sam have explained to you, is to get them to carrying capacity or market weight or whatever weight. What you want to do there is tilapia do a lot of inbreeding quickly. Yeah, so when they get to a particular weight, you want to separate males from females. That's one. So that you can be able to allow them grow. They will use their energy to not reproduce. So that's the first thing. Same thing with catfish. You may have customers that prefer them not to be pregnant. So you should be able to find where, for instance, the male, whatever it is. So there are short videos that is done on how you can identify that. Now, for tilapia, there's a technique how you can make them grow to a particular sex, sort of like form of sex selection, beyond the scope of this video. So please do ask your questions while we're giving this recap. So that's basically, what you need for this biology. But of course, if you are a researcher, and you want to know, the swim bladder, you can use this to do pathological studies to understand the fish, the disease happening in your farm. And the reason you need this knowledge is you cannot get any big grant without a thorough knowledge of this. There's no way, whether you go to Bank of Agriculture, whether you go to Nasarawa State Government, Kano State Government, and they ask you to come and give a presentation, and it's clear that you do not have mastery of the basic of it. We'll talk about the money side of farming, the business side, but you must understand the basics of it. And they were to ask you if you have disease outbreaks, what are some of the things that you'll be looking at? Because depending on the parasite or the disease in your farm, because if the government were to give you 30 million, you know, what it means that if they're giving you 30 million naira and you allow disease to wipe out half of the farm and you don't even know how to track down the disease, then of course there's no way. And don't forget, while you can bring in other people in, you must be able to, for instance, preserve the fish that are diseased for them to do the pathological studies. Yeah. So this is why, because if you are looking at really big, you spend some time understanding the internal anatomy of the fish, because that's where you culture the bacteria, or you take and create slides and look at it in the lab and all of those things like that. So I think we've talked about, of course, understand the difference between fish farming and agriculture, pisciculture, all of this fishing and fish farming is different. Yeah, one is wild catch, while the other one is not. Now, this is useful again if you are going to look for a grant from any professional body that asks you to give a presentation. When the first thing you do is you are mixing the terms together, they will say this person doesn't even understand the term. This money is going to be a waste. So someone is asking of trampoline pond vary. The two suppliers. There's a supplier from Lagos. His is slightly expensive. I think the one that can carry 500. But when I did the calculation, it carries like 450 to 500 as per FAO. I think they sell for one. The guys in Abuja, I think they sell for 110. So if you want for 1,000, I would discourage you if you are starting out, because for a few reasons, they tend to be very difficult to manage. Their standing can be problematic. And if all you have is 1,000, and you remember the saying, don't put all your fish in one basket, and you put all of your 1,000 fish in one trampoline pond, and that pond was to have accident, infection, whatever contamination, you lose all your investment. So if your plan is to do 1,000 fish, have two ponds. If it's 500 fish, have at least two ponds. Or if you're starting out, if you're doing 1,000, have three. Or you can use tank. But trampoline has roughly, or the one that can carry 500, like 120, 110. The one that can carry 1,000, the guys in Abuja, the last time they supplied at 200. The guy in Lagos wants to supply it, I think wants to supply it at 230. And they give you all kinds of explanation, their own this, that, and that. But if you are where you can build an earthen pond, you get me, go ahead and do that. Yeah. So, or you can use fish tank. If you need to do fish tank, you can use second hand. You can just go around second hand GP tank that has small problem. Buy it as scrap. I'm giving you the cheap technique.
Yeah.
Take it if you are in Kano, all those people that used to repair rubber, Masigiara rubber, they have difficulty to repair. They will repair it for you. Convert it to fish tank. Some people may even dash you. Yeah, so you are bringing down the cost of the infrastructure. So that's that. So understanding terminologies when you want to scale, you can do that. So yeah, I think we talked about that. So carrying capacity, people don't understand why you need this. If you want to buy the trampoline pond, you notice that they will tell you this one can carry this number of fish. That's how they arrive at it. It's based on this. There are ways to expand the carrying capacity, but it's beyond this level of training. And this is one of the mistakes people make, and they do something called overstocking. And that leads to mortality. So carrying capacity, you must understand this, meaning there's an extent you can overcrowd the fish. That's all it means. There's an extent to which you can just like there's an extent to which you can overcrowd humans, isn't it? So think about that. So that's the essence of carrying capacity. I mean, if you have, so someone has asked, if you have the space, if the land or whatever belongs to you, the long-term cost of a concrete pond is way cheaper than a trampoline pond. There are just few things you must consider. So let's say it's your house or whatever, you figured out the land and you're not sure that you will use it for you're not sure that you will use it for anything. You can do concrete. But concrete, the investment of concrete is more. Why? Because if you don't cement the interior properly, water will be entering and your concrete pond will probably not last a year. However, earthen pond is cheap. So what you do, we'll teach you, send us an email, you will teach you how to do the earthen pond as per FAO standard. If you are aware you can do it, it's the cheapest. I repeat, earthen pond is the cheapest. I don't practice it because, I'm in town. I've been spoiled by Ajay butter, but it doesn't mean I won't tell you the truth. It's the cheapest. Why? Because when you have earthen pond, you fertilize it. So organisms will grow. Do you get me? So you don't need to buy fish feed as much. Do you get? Because there's zooplankton, phytoplankton. So you can create the food chain in the earthen pond. Yeah. Yes, like I said, Olajumoke and his husband material. So husband material and Olajumoke, email us, we'll guide you through how to build your earthen pond depending on size. I think there's another of our training is beyond the scope. The first you want to do is you want to look at the site selection. So I'll just talk a little bit about it. So the site selection for you to create earthen pond, one, anytime you want to create fish, you must think of water. What is your source of water? So since you've asked, Olajumoke, where are you going to get the water to feed the earthen pond? And husband material. So those are the two things. Water. And if you want to come on, I'll give you a link to come on stage. I think if I have your email, you ask the question. So where is your source of water? Yes, earthen pond has building material requirements. In fact, it's a very complex process. So the first thing is you need to know your source of water. Yeah. So if the source of water is downstream, it won't work. So your pond, your site selection needs to be, what source of water needs to be upstream, and your pond, you need to select it downstream. Yeah. So that's the site selection. So you must know source of water, water inlet, water outlet. The next is water outlet. Yeah. Then you need to study the soil. What is the porosity? Can that soil hold water? Now, there are few things around knowing which soil will hold water. The next is you need to know about predators. I'm teaching you too much for free, so we'll stop here. Send us the email, the two of you, and we'll train you. We have all the experts in-house that even know it better than me. What causes stunted growth? Many things. Remember, we told you the first is, let me just take it from the beginning. The first thing that will cause stunted growth is the biologic quality and genetic quality of the fish in the first place. So where you got the juvenile from? Yeah. Is it a well-known farm? Is it a weak farm? There are a few things you can test yourself. When you are going to buy the juvenile, look at their movement rate. Hello? Inspect them. Yeah? inspect them, look at their health, have an idea. That's one. So don't just be lazy and then this. So that's the first thing. The next thing is feeding, yeah, water quality are probably the two most important. Now there's a whole lecture that we have on food and nutrition of fish. I think Sam, is it that on Saturday, isn't it? I think that one is on Saturday. So we'll give you all of the things. So feeding and nutrition of the fish. Then there's a whole lecture we have on water quality. Those are the things that would cause stunted growth. Now the issue is, yes, even though foreign feeds will give you the most amount, they take all the money. So you do all the farming and then you use all the money to pay for foreign feed. So my first recommendation, if you have the space, go for 18 pond. Yeah? I've answered you. So the first is where you got the fish from, their genetic makeup. Yeah? So the second is the feeding of the fish. The third is water quality, and the fourth is disease. I bet, Sam, can you write this one? Malu keep asking me the same question. Malu, if yeah, if you are sleeping in this lecture. You know, when I was in medical school, we used to have some people that will be sleeping. Then they'll ask you the question. So the first is genetic, biologic makeup of your fish. You may not be able to control this. The only thing you can do is make sure you buy from. So I'm listing the number one. Number two, feeding. Quality of feeding. Now, don't overfeed. Something called, let me make it easier for you, under and overfeeding. So overfeeding won't make the fish overgrow. It will make them diseased. 3, water quality. Because the Malu is like he's trying to test my knowledge. Malu, you don't know that I'm chief editor of PubMed. So 4, water quality. 5, disease. There are other factors, but disease in the fish. So these ones. We've also said to you, if you came to our previous training, what's his name? One of our trainers, Kola, told you, catfish, any feed that they've not consumed in the first 30 minutes, they are unlikely to consume it. Hello? So you must know when to stop feeding. Yeah. So I think those are the main things. So these 4 things, if you consider them, you will get good result. And sometimes you, the farmer, you need to increase your knowledge. So in terms of starting out, if you can go for 18 pond is the cheapest, but you must know source of water. How are you going to get water in the pond, water out of the pond? Then you prepare the soil and do those things. Then the next to that is concrete pond. Concrete pond, one, you know that once you build that structure, it's not a structure you want to take down in a year or 2. If you know that your structure will be there for up to 5 years, then it's a good return of investment. If you are not sure, then certainly you have to do trampoline. Yeah. So those are the points. So fine. So where are we? Any more questions? So we've talked about this. I think, Sam, we'll go to lecture 2.
Let's look at lecture 2. And The module is talking about the technical dimension of sustainable aquaculture, factors influencing carrying capacity in water. Of course, with
Now let me explain something to Olajumoke.
all right,
So
sir.
so to clarify, upstream is so when you go to a stream, hello, regular stream in the villages or anywhere, the top part of the stream where the water is rushing and coming down. So that top part, look at my hand. This is upstream, this is downstream. Now, if the water is coming from here and you go and put your farm here, you will struggle to get the water to stay there. If the water is coming from here and your farm is somewhere here or here where the water settles, it's easier. So let's say you are using rainwater. So that's the first factor to consider. Now, aside that, even if you are drilling a borehole, you need to consider that. Yeah? You need to consider that. No, Malu, I was just playing with you, don't worry. So that's the idea of upstream. Because you must use gravity to your advantage when you are trying to solve the water solution. It's the same thing when you are building a water board or anything. You must use gravity to your advantage. Otherwise, you spend money on water pumps. And 1 horsepower of water pump is about like 100,000. You get me? So anytime you can, your source of water should be upstream. So that's the idea. Again, email us. We have the team. Sam is here. We have an expert in fish farming in Nigeria. We have many experts that will guide you step by step. You get me? So that you don't make the mistake. Avoid learning from your own mistakes. That's what I tell people in anything. So don't make your own mistakes. Don't rush and buy anything. Don't buy anything. Get the knowledge first. If you are starting out, you can do 18 pond. That's the cheapest. The other thing I didn't talk about in 18 pond is you must have predator control. Don't forget there are things that will come and eat your fish. Yeah, from snakes. If you are in some area, crocodile. If you are in some area, bird of prey. And then don't forget humans too are predators. Huh? So, so don't, anytime you are building 18 pond or any sort of pond, you must factor this. In our farms, we have CCTV. Because otherwise you wake up in the morning and all the fish is gone, investment zero. Okay, so guys, we can do two things. We can take a little bit of recess and come back in 10 minutes. So this is 11:14. Yeah. And then, yes, I agree. So use this, especially in this dwindling economy. And even if the economy is not dwindling, use this to, strengthen yourself, financially, do the right thing. We're giving you the knowledge. We have people to guide you every step of the way. Contact the email us. Our team are there. We have Sam. Sam is an expert. Sam is doing doctorate in an area related to farm, the environment, and geography. So he has a lot of knowledge you can use, to your advantage. Avoid trial by error. Don't use your money to do trial by error. Think about how the banks give people money. They make sure they check everything. Do the same for yourself. So, do we want a little bit of recess for 10 minutes and then we'll come back? Guys, let me know in the comment section. We can take a little short recess and we come back and rest and take breakfast or whatever you want to take and then come back. So let's do a little bit of recess, Sam, and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. So we'll come back Nigerian time. This is 11, isn't it? 10 minutes will be 11:27. Yep, 11:27. Sam, are you in agreement or disagreement? Which one?
I'm in agreement, sir.
Okay. All right. See
I'm
you
in
guys in
agreement.
10 minutes.
All right, sir.
Don't log out of the channel. Just leave it to be running so that everything is good. So come back in 10 minutes.
All right.
I hope you've had some rest. Let me get Sam to come on his lecture. Okay, Sam. I think we are ready for lecture 2. Sir? Hello, Sam. Can you hear me? Okay, I think he's having some network issue. He'll soon be back, but we're here, lecture 2. Good, Sam is back. Sam, can you hear me? Good. Everybody, Sam is back. Sam is the main trainer for today. I'm just helping him to move the slide. That's my job today.
Apologies, sir, for coming a little bit.
So that's fine. We're back. I think our people are coming. They're settling in. Don't forget, share the link, share the link, share the link. The link is down on the screen there. Share the link, share the link, share the link. Share the link, share the link, share the link. Good morning, good morning. So I think, Sam, you can start.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just mute my mic.
About to start lecture 2. And the module is talking about the technical dimension of sustainable agriculture. And we are going to look at the factors influencing carrying capacity in water. We're going to look at the factors, and then we are going to explain it in more details. Like some of the factors that influence carrying capacity in water, we have the water quality. You have to they kind of consider the water quality as one of the factors. We also have to consider the fish species and size. We also have to consider the feed, the type of feed that is involved. We also have to consider the nutrients. And we are going to look at the overview of intervention levels and carrying capacities. That's what we're going to look at under this modules. So can we go to the next slide? Can we go to the next slide, sir?
Right, are
Now,
you not seeing it? Yeah, okay.
yeah. Okay, now let's look at the water quality. Water quality. Okay, let's look at the water quality. Now, before you stock any fish, whether fry, whether fingerlings, whether catfish, whether tilapia, as the case may be, we have to consider the water quality. Now, the water quality or the quality of water determine the success or failure of any aquaculture operation. Now, in order for you to involve into this business, you have to determine the quality of your water. So if your water is being polluted, of course, you know, your fish or your fingerlings, they will not survive in that water because already the water is being polluted. And then a unit of water can produce and maintain only certain weight of fish. Those are carrying capacity depending on the number of factors and their interaction. Water has certain carrying capacity as noted above. We have looked at them, and then there are several natural factors that influence that carrying capacity. Human interference result in additional factors influencing carrying capacity. So the slide here try to mention the human interference as one of the major factors that influencing carrying capacity. Now, the overview of this water quality. So your water has to be in a very, very good and safe mood. That means to say e have to be in a conducive state in order for that aquatic habitat to enjoy, to live in without any let me say form of diseases that will hinder their growth. So that's all about water quality. Let's look at the fish size and species. Now, for a fish to grow to eat a maximum yield, you have to consider the type of species of that fish. There are some fish that maybe when you bring them and then at the end of the day, their growth rate at least is not the way it's supposed to be. So it is expected that when you bring a feed as a certain month, let me say this month, is in the next 3 months, they should reach. So the fish species and size is one of the contributing factors, one of the factors we need to consider. before we involve that fish in, species involve the carrying capacity by fish size, feeding habit, and resistance to poor water quality. The fish size, the fishing habit, and the resistance to poor quality water are the what culture species influencing carrying capacity. For this culture species, we have to consider the fish size, the feeding habit. How do the fish feed? Are they responding to feeding? And then the resistance to poor quality of water. Of course, if the water is poor, the fish will resist to such quality. So there will be high level of mortality of fish because the water quality is poor. It's not conducive for that fish to stay in. And of course, fish are aquatic animals. They live inside water. They spend their life cycle in water. But in a situation whereby that water is not conducive, number one, the size of the fish will not grow the way it's expected. Of course, the feeding habits will not be responding to fish because already the water quality is not conducive for them. Okay, and then you see the way they behave in their water, it is going to be abnormal for them. Because maybe probably the water will be polluted for them to stay in. So these are the second factor we need to consider. So under fish species and size, we are going to look at, we say the culture species. We look at the fish size, the feeding habit, and the resistance to poor water quality. So under the culture species, we are going to look at the fish size. We are going to look at the fish size. Now, for a given carrying capacity, the weight of a fish can be composed of a large number of small fish or a small number of large fish of the same species. Now, the feeding habits, because the small fish are herbivorous, just like Dr. Jonathan said, some omnivorous and some carnivorous, and therefore have different nutritional requirements and digestion. Their feeding time should be planned accordingly. Okay, so there are some fish that are herbivorous in nature. There are some fish that are omnivorous. There are some that are carnivorous. So one's supposed to kind of be plan their feeding times. You cannot give a fish that is omnivorous, fish that you are supposed to give to that of carnivorous. Carnivorous. When we talk about carnivorous, we are talking about the fish that feed on flesh. And you cannot give a feed on fish that feed on flesh, and then you give to the fish that feed on normal feed. It's not done that way. So you're supposed to plan. It's all about planning. If not, and you cannot join them together. Because when you join them together, of course, they are going to feed themselves. They're going to feed themselves. Now, the example is here. The carrying capacity. This example we are trying to look at is that of carrying capacity. The carrying capacity is close to 4,000 kilograms per hectare, which will give us 8,000 fish times 500 grams each. It means that for your carrying capacity, let me say at the end of the day, to get this 4,000 kilograms per hectare, of course, for each 8,000 fish, you are supposed to give them 500 grams each of fish. That's what it means. 500 grams each for fish. So you have to do your calculation. Now, 8,000 fish times 5,000 for each one. Of course, it's going to give us 4,000 kilograms per hectare. Or let me say you have 16,000 fish times 250 grams. It's going to give you 4,000 kilograms per hectare. So this is how to calculate the carrying capacity for each fish that you want to stock. This is the size of the fish. It depends on the size of that particular fish. So let's go to the next slide. Now, another culture, the fish culture or fish species, we look at the fish size. Now, we are going to look at the resistance to poor water quality. Like all living organisms, farming aquatic species require good and healthy environment to allow fish to achieve their potentials. Yes, the environment matters, the aquatic environment matters, and then the health of the fish matters. You say it requires good and healthy environment to allow fish to achieve their potential. In a situation whereby the fish does not have any good and healthy environment, it will not achieve its potential. You that are even rearing that fish, you will not be happy, because the fish does not have a good and healthy environment. The environment will not be conducive for that fish. And also, there's a water quality is the first factor to be considered in farming management. Very, very important. Water quality. For any farm management, we have to consider that water quality, because of course they are aquatic animals, they live in water. It's just like human being. You cannot use a water that has been polluted and then you say you go and take a shower with. It's not done that way. So you have to also consider the water, the genuineness of that water in order to take a shower. The same thing applicable to fish. So these are the first factor you need to consider for in fish farming management. Of course, the laboratory, the hatchery, the tank, the pond, cage, or any other farming system. This one you need to consider. Unfortunately, they say in Africa and many other parts of the globe, farmers usually neglect farm management practice, and fish become less and less resistant to disease and other external factors because they are already striving to survive in poor water quality environment. Now, this is the practice that has been common in Africa. Common in Africa. Farmers, they normally neglect one of these factors. They neglected it. Okay, they look at, because already they feed aquatic animals they are using or either living in a dirty or poor water. It's not done that way. So you just bring a fish and then put it inside the dirty water. Of course, the fish will be struggling with their life. That's why we'll be seeing high level of mortality. So it's very, very important. We have to look at the water quality as the number one factors. So let's go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide, sir. So feed. Now, when we talk about feed, it's not you can't use anyhow feed to feed your fish. They have to undergo some stages in their growth. So when you bring a fish as a fingerlings, of course there is a feed you are supposed to start feeding that fish before when it reach some certain growth. Let me say 1 to 10 1 month, or let me say 3 weeks or 4. Then you change that feed. I'm just trying to bring an example anyway. They say if fish species are consuming all the natural food organisms exist in a pond, and the carrying capacity of the pond itself has been reached, an increase in carrying capacity can be obtained by providing supplemental feed. Okay, so what does this place trying to tell us? Of course, you have been feeding feed, they are consuming the natural feed, and then the carrying capacity has been reached. Maybe it has reached a time that for you to dispose that feed. Of course, you as the person that is rearing that feed, you have to provide a supplementary feed. Are you getting me? Maybe the carrying capacity of that pond has been reached. So there must be increase, or there is need to increase the carrying capacity in order to provide a supplementary feed. And when feed is supplied as a pond supplement, its quality must be upgraded by natural fish food organisms eaten by the feed. Supplemental feed is not nutritionally complete but provide a source of energy to complete protein-rich natural food. Example are rice bran, wheat bran, and then cotton seed meal. Conversion of supplemental feed by tilapia is usually 3 to 5 kg of feed per kilogram or weight grain. So this supplemental feed is not naturally complete, and then but one of the advantage is that it provides a source of energy. Are you getting me? To a complement protein rich natural food. And we are trying to look at some example. Now when we look at this graph, this is a graph of standing crop against nutrient input. Standing crop against nutrient input. At the first stage, there is no fertilizer given to this particular tilapia fish or catfish. This is a tilapia fish. There is not any fertilizer being given to it. at the first stage. Of course, if there is not any fertilizer is being given to you, of course it's not going to grow. It will remain the way it is. Either it will remain the way it is, and then or it will die because there is no any source of nutrient given to it, or there's no any source of feed given to. It's just like human being. If you do not eat food for 1 week, how will you feel? Are you getting me? There is this weakness of the body that you are going to feel. But at the second stage, with fertilizer, of course, there you see, at the first stage, there is a difference between the first stage and the second stage. When no fertilizer is given to him, you look at how the size of the fish look like. But once a fertilizer is given to that fish, of course, it increases its size. Okay, what if feed is being given to this fish? Of course, the size will increase. Are you getting me? So these are the stages that we need to consider when you don't give when there is no fertilizer being given to the feed, and then even with fertilizer and then with feed, of course it will increase a stage by stage process. Now this is the maximum safe feeding rate without fertilizer, 80 kilogram hectare per day, with aeration 100 kilogram per hectare per day, 30 kilogram per hectare per day, and then 80 kilogram per hectare per. No, now this is for catfish and that of tilapia without aeration and with aeration. Are you getting me? Of course, without aeration, it will not increase its size. So it's expected that without aeration, 80 kilogram per hectare per day is supposed to be given to the fish, and then without aeration, of course, the size will increase, just like the way I explained in that first graph. Okay, so in the nutshell, when feeding, there is natural, there is artificial feed that will be given to the feed. So a feed with chemicals will increase the size of the feed, and then with feed also it will also increase. But without fertilizer, of course, the size of the feed will not increase. Of course, this is the graph between the standing crop against the nutrient input. Can we go to the next slide, sir? So the next one I want us to look at is the nutrient. The nutrient. The natural fertility of water, its quantity of minerals is dependent upon the fertility of watershed, pond, soil, and the quality and quantity of water used to fill the pond. In general, water is high rainfall areas. Is low in minerals due to excessive leachage of the soil. On the other hand, water is low in low rainfall area is high in minerals due time. If fertilizer and pesticide placed on watershed gain access to the culture unit, they can influence the productivity of the culture organism. The principal limiting minerals are the macronutrients, which are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and the micronutrients are trace mineral. So what does that mean? Of course, when water is of high rainfall area, when the area is very high of rainfall, of course there's going to be this low in mineral due to the excessive leachage in soil. But when the area is of low of rainfall, of course there's going to be high, the area will be of high mineral due to what? Or evaporation, and then which leaves the minerals behind. So it is advisable, and also we look at the principal limiting minerals, the macronutrient, which is phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, all of them. Is the nitrogen cycle pond water. Okay, nitrogen cycle pond water. Now when we look at it, this is a cycle, a nitrogen cycle pond water. And then what does that mean? It means that it's a process. It's a process. Now, the process here is that as it's not that clear for me to see. Not as clear
It's
for me
too
to see.
small. Or do you need me to change it to the next
Yes,
slide?
sir. I'm trying to
Oh.
explain it, but yes, sir. You can
Anyway,
change
I
to the
think
next.
what it's saying is the if fertilizers and pesticides are placed on water shelves, they gain access to the culture unit and can influence the
Yes.
productivity of cultured organisms. What it means is if you have a farm, now and then you need things to
Yes.
control pests. So rats,
Yes.
other things that invade your farm, cockroaches, anything. So when you keep this
Mm.
close to the cultural unit, they can contaminate and pollute your farm. So what it's saying, especially for people that
Mm.
farm fish and farm yam or farm whatever you're farming, you have to know that. Now, the principle also limiting minerals are the macronutrient. Now, if you remember from biology, you have macro and micronutrient. In terms
Mm.
of this, you must think of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and then you have the micronutrient or trace element. Trace elements are elements you do not need in large amount.
Okay. At
So,
all.
and
Okay.
the things about pH, acidity or alkalinity,
Alkaline.
which will vary
Yes.
across Nigeria. Some
Mm.
water, is more acidic than others. So that's what this is talking about. So Sam, please carry on.
All right. The next slide is the overview, intervention level, and carrying capacity. So amidst all these things, we've tried to look at the factors that influences the carrying capacity in water. So we look at the water quality, we look at the fish species and size, we look at the feed, and we look at the nutrients. Of course, the next thing that we also to look at is an overview, intervention levels,
Yeah.
and carrying
So
capacity. So
Sam,
these are the graphs.
if I may,
Yes, sir.
so when you are watching, just look at the X and Y axis. Now just
Oh
try
yeah.
and remember that. So the first thing is the XY is the standing
Okay,
crop, which is the level at which you may need to harvest your fish. And
yes.
then what is the level of intervention, isn't it, on the other axis? Now, what this is telling you, now, if you are a very scientific farmer and you are going to farm at scale, you need to collect information to draw this graph at least once monthly. Yeah. So at
Yes.
each point, you
Yeah.
need to decide what to do. The fertilization I've told you
Mm.
guys is 13 points, meaning as you start, you get to a certain level. If it remains unfertilized, the food quantity cannot go up.
Mm.
So if you look at the graph down, meaning once you start your 18 pond production, after a certain standing weight, you need to fertilize that pond. Yeah. Now, after you've done that, after another next weight level, you need to add supplemental feed. Yeah.
Yeah.
After another level, you need to now have what? You need to have complete feed.
Complete.
And here, so good. So complete feed. So you look at feed quality, water quality, look at water quality, dissolved oxygen. Why? Because when you are doing something called intensive aquaculture, the space per unit fish is higher. Therefore, they are competing for everything, food,
Mm-hmm.
oxygen, and everything. So your fish stand the risk of suffocating from lack of air. So after that stage, you need to do something called aeration, meaning you need to add the amount of oxygen in the pond. This especially when you want to go at scale. So that's the point we're making here. So there's another training we have that is beyond basics. So that's the advanced and specialized. In that training, we'll teach you how you must keep records. You must keep records because no matter how good your memory is, after a week you've forgotten most of the things you said you did. So when you keep record, you need to keep record and collect records, especially if you are doing 18 pond. And you need to keep record for each of your ponds. There are various simple ways to do that. You can number your ponds 1 to 8. You can number them A, B, C, D to Z. But that's if you only have 26 ponds. You can number them however you like. You can number them, for instance, names of the state or country, so that you know that if you pond 1, you have 50 fish, you know the date you fertilize pond 1, it's in your book. There are various ways to do this. If you are very modern and scientific like myself, you probably want to do that using an online cloud-based record keeping system like Excel or Google Sheets. There's nothing that says you cannot do it dollar with A4 book and paper. So that's what this is about. So Sam, okay. So interestingly, that's the last slide.
That's
All
lecture,
right.
yes, sir.
So we'll just do a little bit of recap. I don't think there's much I need to say. Sam has covered this. So carrying capacity is the amount of fish, isn't it, that can be farmed per unit water. And then you talk about the water quality. There's so many things you can measure about water. The ones you probably need to measure once every 2 days is the dissolved oxygen, the ammonia level, depending on what part of the world, the temperature, depending on the size of your production. You may not be able to do this often. And then you can measure pH, nitrate, nitrite, chlorine level, fluorine level, hardness, turbidity. Some are straightforward to measure, you know. So, but once your production is becoming more and more bigger, this is something that you have to deal with. Species varies. Basically, I've said this. There are basically 2 fish that you can farm easily, especially if you are a small scale in Nigeria, and it's catfish and tilapia. Catfish is more, that's Clarias garapinus. Is the more popular one because it has more resistance. Like people can do anyhow with it. So you see that it's more popular. The second type is tilapia. We've explained their biologies to you. And I've said one of the key things, if you don't take anything from today's lecture, you need to be able to tell the difference between male and female catfish. Some people say they'd like to come and work for, myself and Sam. And when we show them male catfish, they cannot identify male and female. So what do you want to be doing on the farm if you cannot tell male from female, So you have to now come as a student, and we'll charge you a little fee and give you practical experience. So you must first be able to identify male catfish, female catfish. So that's the first thing. Tilapia, likewise, understand the biology, understand how they feed, so that you will not just be taking information at random and then you understand feed. Now, if you understand feed, the other thing that will help you is you know how to do feeding strategy. The main problem with the issue of catfish or probably any farming of animal is feed. So you want to understand in your area, what do you have more? And we've talked about nutrient fertilization, and we talked about intervention at every level. I won't repeat what Sam has said. We've talked about this. We've talked about fish feed. We've talked about all of this. So we have a lecture for this afternoon that is going to start 4 p.m. Nigerian time, and for another 2 hours, where we'll cover lecture 3 and then 4. So I think we will stop here and just keep answering questions until you guys run out. And then if you want to come up, you have something to share, let us know. We can bring you up for momentarily and see what, give you the opportunity to speak. favor to share the lecture material. So this lecture, interestingly, is going to be on the channel for free. Rebecca. So Richard, Rebecca, it's going to be on the channel for free. Immediately we stop this stream, just go to the channel. Let me give you the link to the channel. Yeah, to the link to and all of our resources is free. So the lectures are there. The one prior is also there. So like and subscribe to the channel. It has all the content and other contents, all of the materials that have been, teaching, and just search for the video. That's one. But if your interest is basically, fish farm, I'm going to put it in the playlist, fish farming playlist, because I have some, lectures for other reason too. So I know people have different interests. So let me just get the playlist that view few playlist. Good. Let me just get you the playlist. So this is the playlist where today's lecture will be hosted. So I'm posting the link. Yes. So that's the playlist on my on our channel. Join the channel, subscribe, is free. Olajumoke, don't worry about anything. All of the lecture is on the YouTube channel for free. I've made it free. Yeah, this setup cost a lot of money. Just for context, cost a lot of money for us to pay subscription for YouTube, and then all of them cost at least US dollar, about 20-30 per month, and we're using at least 2 platforms. So if you do the maths, we are paying over 100,000 per month just to be able to give you this training free. So just go to just go to the YouTube channel, keep learning, keep interacting. So all of the information is free. I've sent you the specific link to the playlist, so you don't need to bother about other videos. All right. Okay. So guys, we're here. We're taking questions until you run out of them. Before, I used to do music interlude, but the music companies, they will start uh, start creating issue. YouTube started complaining about it, so now stopped. They will now start saying you are doing plagiarism or something. So okay. Any questions before? Thank you, Elizabeth. So we've gone through a lot. You have any questions, or you want to write them down, and when we come back in the afternoon, remember the time for the lecture. The next one is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Same thing, same link. No, you have all the links, but let me share the link to the next session, next upcoming session, so that we are aware. I'm going to put them in the chat box. We are here to give you the training for free. So I'm sharing the link now. Yes, Musa Tukur, we have a lecture, I believe. Is that correct, Sam? I think we have a lecture by
Yes,
one
sir.
of our parts. Either is in on the afternoon
Yeah.
syllabus. Yes, so your question will be answered in the afternoon syllabus or on Saturday, but we and specifically how you use MPK. Who knows what MPK is? How you can use MPK to fertilize your pond. Um, and in that lecture, we'll cover that. I've shared the link to the afternoon session. Let me just see. So that share the link to your friends and let's meet up and continue an exciting journey. So after this, we will start some interesting series. So our next, we are going to do hands-on, led by Sam, and we will show you how these things happen in real time. You get in a real oh dear, it didn't say link to afternoon session. Yep, so that's the link to the afternoon session. So when we share the link with your friends, get the knowledge so that you have a little community where you can discuss these things on a continuous basis, so that you keep going and keep getting better at what it is that you do, and you keep doing something that is profitable, and you keep doing something that is going to benefit you for a very long time. So, yes, 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 yes. I think we have covered a lot today, this morning. Sam, any last
Yes, sir.
words before we round up?
What I want to say, fish farming is very, very important and lucrative business for every individual to involve in. So as you are getting this lecture, you should try and put it into consideration, into serious practice, because it's going to help you in the nearest future, and then you will be financially independent, and then you become self-reliance in whatever that you are doing. That's my final word, sir.
Okay, well done. So, everyone, thanks for attending this training.
See you in the
Um,
afternoon.
See you in the afternoon. Bye, and God
Bye
bless.
bye.
And Happy New Year. Let's put the new
Same to you.
year. Let's put the new year. So, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. YouTube have prevented me from, using any music I use now. They will say
Nope, nope.
they will
They will
keep
not allow
saying
you
I
to play
Jerry. All right,
it.
guys. Happy New Year and thanks for attending. And please go back, get this knowledge, activate the knowledge.
Mm,
Don't sit dormant on it. There's opportunity. Only if you create one, use the knowledge,
mm,
and with the mindset of productivity. The most important thing that you must do and be aware of is you need to start with what you have. So a lot of people, they want to start with what they want. You have to start with what you have. If you what you have is eating pond, use it. Whatever, use it. Whatever pond you have, start with what you have. All right,
mm,
guys, bye, and thanks for
mm.
coming.
Bye.
Bye.